Well, welcome everybody to Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet meeting today. Welcome to everybody that's in the room, Cabinet members, officers and fellow councillors, and also those that may be viewing on the YouTube channel this meeting today. If you'd like to see the agenda, it's available on the Council's website, and I believe there's a link in the underneath the video if you'd like to see that. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies. I don't have any, all Cabinet members are here. Declarations of interest, do I have any of those for items on the agenda? Don't have any of those. Minutes attached page 5 to 10. Can we agree those as a correct record, please? Thank you. Moving to our first item of business today, this is the Wally's Quarry update report. Thank you again to our officers for putting this report together. Obviously a major issue affecting large parts of the borough, one that isn't getting any better. This report is a full comprehensive assessment of where we are at the moment and includes the update which was announced yesterday afternoon that the council had served a letter before action against Wally's Quarry Limited, formerly Red Industries, regarding the statutory nuisance process which the council is going through. This report is, as I say, comprehensive. It contains complaints data showing the spike in complaints that we've had because of the odours. Also, a breakdown of the sort of odours which are being experienced in the community. Also, the air monitoring data, which shows on the Gallendale View estate, obviously that above nuisance levels, World Organisation nuisance levels, for 53% of the time, 47% of the time during May. Obviously, a detail then under 4.1 of the investigations the council has been undertaking, which has led to the letter being submitted yesterday. There's also a section on the Environment Agency's action, a whole list of the actions which they have taken under 5.2, and also the breaches that this site has now been found to have significant breaches, minor breaches, a whole series of breaches dating from the 4th of February to the 21st of May. And then the series of actions 1 to 22 that the Environment Agency have taken. But I can say, as a resident of the borough, that this morning those actions haven't resulted in the odour decreasing if it can reach 2.5 miles away from the site, which it did at my house this morning. Implications for health, item number 6. Obviously, Public Health England are responsible for that and are monitoring that. But I know from speaking to people, seeing what people are saying on social media, that there is a major issue in people's experiences of this. And there is also indications from GPs and other quarters that there are short-term health implications, which shouldn't be made to look minor. And that those need to be taken very seriously. The County Council has launched its symptoms tracker, which is updating regularly on the symptoms that are coming in there, and nausea, headaches, and that sort of thing, which again is not very nice for anybody to experience, particularly children, as well as we know children are experiencing in the Silverdale area, in the Nutton area, in the Poolfields area, and further afield. That is just not good enough, and we'll be discussing that more later. Item 7 is the ongoing lobbying that's taking place. Particularly our MP, Aaron Ball, who's been involved daily on this with us, and we're involved with him daily as he takes it to Westminster and beyond. And also we've had the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, Matt Hancock, becoming involved, and also the leader of Staffordshire County Council, Alan White, has also waded in since our last cabinet meeting against the company, expressing dismay at the poor stewardship of the site by the operator. So the letter before action is really the big news which we've had in the last 24 hours. I'm going to hand over to the Chief Executive just to outline the process that brought us to this, and then the process, what goes forward towards what many people have been looking for, which is an abatement notice, a statutory abatement notice against the company. It's a very complicated procedure, and I'll hand over to Martin now just to explain how we got here and what are the next steps. Thank you, Martin.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The process by which we get to the point of issuing the letter before action is really by evaluating the evidence picture that's emerging here. And we work closely with colleagues from a range of agencies within the Civil Contingencies Unit, the LRF, to coordinate the activity that we have on this particular site. And there's a number of issues that are significant that are in this report that actually lead us to the point of issuing the letter before action. There's probably two very significant ones that are set out in paragraph 2.4 through to about 2.8 in the report. Shortly after your last meeting, the Wally's Quarry Limited asserted that they'd identified an alternate source of hydrogen sulfide in the community, and that this was associated with contaminated groundwater. Now, there was work done by the Coal Authority and by the council to evaluate that and see whether there was any merit in that claim. The Coal Authority have reviewed all of the data they have, and they've dismissed the possibility of that of any contamination coming from the former coal workings. We as a council have got responsibility to regulate private water supplies, so we have looked at the relevant private water supplies and concluded that none of those pose any risk. We had invited the Wally's Quarry Limited to provide us with their evidence that substantiates the claim that there was a source other than Wally's Quarry. There's been no credible evidence come forward from that. So our conclusion, therefore, was that actually the problematic odours that we're experiencing in the borough, in the town, are coming from Wally's Quarry site. That's also backed up by work that we've been doing with one of the external experts that we've identified, who we've appointed, who has taken the information from the air quality monitors and looked at that in the context of things such as meteorological conditions, and again identified that, you know, at the heart of the odour issues is the Wally's Quarry site. So that was an important conclusion, if you like, to reach there. Linked to that, again, when we last met, I think I pointed out that the Environment Agency at that stage were talking in terms of odours from the direction of Wally's Quarry. That has also changed in the last month, and the Environment Agency now talk about Wally's Quarry as being the source of the odours, and indeed have issued what's called a CAR form, which is an enforcement activity expressly related to odours off-site. So that also strengthens the position that Wally's Quarry is the source. So the annoyance threshold from World Health Organization, you see in paragraph 3.2, the 4 air quality monitoring stations that have been set up around the site are picking up varying degrees of exceedance of that annoyance level. But as you quite rightly pointed out later, the Gallingale View station is picking up significant exceedances. So around about half the time at some points, the level of hydrogen sulfide in that area was above the annoyance threshold. We've then had fairly intensive work going on with our environmental health officers, both visiting people in their homes to witness what they were reporting, and also leaving air quality monitors in people's homes for a period of time. Now, all of that data hasn't been fully evaluated yet, but the picture that's emerging from that is showing that annoyance threshold is exceeded at certain times. The report sets out all that the Environment Agency have been doing in terms of enforcement, and again, with that shift in language, where they're actually now clearly associating Wally's Quarry with the odours in terms of their enforcement action. Again, that strengthens the position in terms of, as I say in the report, the evidence pointing towards statutory nuisance. There's some important work that's going on with the EA at the moment. So Item 19 in the table talks about the need for Wally's Quarry to submit a report on investigations into their gas utilisation plant. That report has come into the Environment Agency and they're now evaluating that. So in terms of process, we have got a number of things that we still need to do. The letter before action is the first part of the process, and if we find ourselves in court associated with this, a judge would expect the council to have issued a letter before action and afforded the operator the opportunity to set out their plans to mitigate the problem and deal with that. So in the letter before action, we give a period of time for Wally's Quarry Limited to come forward with their analysis of what they're going to do to mitigate the problems. Alongside that, we are taking the raft of evidence that we have, which is coming from the various air quality monitors, from the expert advice, from the witness statements that were taken within the community. That, together with any response from the operator, will then need to be evaluated and triangulated to see whether at that stage the case is made to go to the next stage of submitting an abatement notice. And we'd anticipate that when we've done that evaluation, we would then be coming back to members with that full picture.
Thank you, Martin, for that comprehensive run over of where we are with that. And thank you again, I say, for the work of the officers. It's been often behind the scenes, not being able to talk about it. You know, councillors, haven't been fully involved as we shouldn't be for this, because it is obviously a legal matter. And if councillors were forcing the issue, that would then obviously not stand up in court in any way, shape or form. So I just hope that the community understand that and bear with officers as we move forward as well on this delicate process, but a process which, you know, has powers that the council have, and they're using them as they can and going through a methodological approach to do that. Before we move on to some other issues, I'm just going to open it up to Cabinet members who wish to say anything on what we've heard so far and the report which we've discussed so far. Trevor.
I just want to commend the officers on the work they're doing. It's absolutely incredible, and it's one massive task we're undertaking. Thanks.
You, Trevor. Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Martin, for that very, very comprehensive report. What residents will ask is why is it taking so long to reach this stage? What's the answer? The fact that we've tried to do it properly so that the thing sticks when we get it or something, because they're going to be saying this should have been done months ago. You can imagine, can't you? What would the answer be to that?
Right. In terms of the timing, the critical issue is actually allowing time to actually collect a raft of evidence that actually allows you to be very clear that any enforcement action that we take is built on a solid base of evidence. So there is a need to actually go through, if you like, a quality process with that. The nature of the odour is actually quite difficult at times, because I guess we all live in the borough here, so we'll be aware that there are times when you'll smell the odour and then a couple of minutes later it's gone, and actually, you know, being in the right place at the right time in order to assess that is actually really quite important and takes time to go through. So it's a lengthy process that we've engaged in, and also, you know, some of the expert advice that we've been getting takes some time to establish. So, for example, you know, when we're looking at the air quality monitoring stuff that's coming off for example, the static monitors, that's going into a process that takes some time for our experts to actually to evaluate that. So it's really about doing, if you like, a solid job on this, as opposed to if you like, responding to it emotionally rather than scientifically.
I know it's a legal minefield, and I don't want to sort of preempt anything or anything like that. But if for years it's been the vicinity of Wally's Quarry, the smell has, and now the fact that EA have changed their wording to it's Wally's Quarry, that would surely carry some weight with our case. The fact that so Environment Agency is actually saying it is Wally's Quarry. It's not a nearby. It's not you're not imagining it. It's not. It is Wally's Quarry. Surely this must add some weight to our case.
As I said in presenting the report, that shift is significant in leading us to issue the letter before action, but that alone is not enough. So, for example, if there's an odor in an area and there's actually not someone there to smell it and be inconvenienced by it, actually that has much less weight in this than an odor that is there and is in someone's home. Okay. And it's, I was saying to colleagues earlier, I was in Belfast on the weekend. If on the weekend my house was full of hydrogen sulfide, I'm not there, actually that's not a nuisance. If I am there, that is a nuisance. So it's the fact that the Environment Agency have identified that there is that have settled that this is the source of the odor from their perspective. It's helpful, but it's not a single silver bullet.
Okay, thank you. Bring in any other cabinet members that want to speak at this point. Not seeing that. I think two other things on this. I think obviously the 7.1 bullet point 2 and the letter from our Chief Executive to the Parliamentary Under Secretary of State, Rebecca Poe, relating to the regulatory performance of the EA. I think I've been quite plain with the EA that we cannot ignore what's happened over the last 18 months. And I believe the failings of the EA over the last 18 months, and we will continue to call for that to be investigated. But we do know as a council, that's a political view, and it's a view held by many people and a lot of councillors, but also we're working closely through our environmental teams with the EA, not only on our action, but also on their action. So there is a two sort of ways we're working with the EA, or not working with them in one respect. But I'm clear, and I've said to the EA that we will not back down from this, and I believe there should be an investigation into the lead up to this, so that not only it doesn't happen anywhere else, but also as we move forward on the dealing with this site, which will go on for many years, that those same mistakes aren't made again. So I just wanted to put that on record as well. The other thing is we've obviously much publicised and also taken up with the EA was the representations by County Councillor Derek Whitfield, which he submitted to the EA on the 4th of June in a meeting that I took part in. Also, he submitted that to ourselves and the County Council, and I'm bringing that today to us. There are copies in the agenda pack with some proposals which he's putting forward relating to the capping of the site and also engineering works that he believes should take place to remove the leachate and also the gas from the site, and also raising the issue of the geological faults in the area, which have been known for many years and could be affecting this site. So there's a series of recommendations 1 to 6, which have been publicised on social media by the local MP and myself, and they're before us today. And I'd like for the council to welcome those proposals put forward by Mr. Whitfield and request that our officers evaluate the approach in those, and also with the EA look at them for any further actions that could come out of those to deal with the stink. So they're on the table here, and I'll take any questions about those if there are any. No, okay. The other question is the health concerns, isn't it? And it's a major issue for a lot of people, and one which we should be taking very seriously. And I want to add some recommendations to the recommendations in the report associated with that. And it's been pointed out to me by a lot of people and also by local councillors that a lot of people within the area aren't online, aren't on social media. The last time they heard anything about Wally's Quarry would have been the letter from Claire Denise from the EA obviously hoping in the letter that this would have been sorted by the 30th of April, even though they say that was never the intention anyway. It was hoped to get towards some resolution. Is that some people will only be reading what they read in the local newspaper if they have that, or leaflets put through the door from one campaign or another. And I propose that we work with Staffordshire County Council and our officers work with them to put a letter to residents in the affected areas highlighting the works of the two councils. That will include the obviously what we've just talked about with the legal process the Borough Council's engaged in, but also the County Council with its health hat on. And the Director of Public Health will be involved in the drafting of that letter, and that be sent out on behalf of the two councils to everybody in the community in the areas that are affected by this. So that's a recommendation I'd like to put forward. Also on the health issues, there are a lot of people who are being woken up in the night at 3 a.m. with this. Their lives are a misery night after night. And I think it's time that we looked at some way of offering them some sort of respite. So I wish the Cabinet to support that we ask the officers to investigate, in consultation with our portfolio holder for health and wellbeing, Jill Heason, the case for establishing an emergency accommodation scheme for those with underlying health conditions in the areas that are most affected by the hydrogen sulfide emissions. We know where they are because we know the figures from the monitoring, and that's brought back to us as soon as possible, so we can look at if we can provide some of that, which I think for some people in the community that would be a godsend. And I think that there's mental health issues, there's serious health issues, there's work-related issues of people not being able to sleep at night because of this, and then having to go work the next day to keep down a living so that they can have an income to feed their families, etc., that are being inconvenienced by this landfill and by this operator. So that's another recommendation I'd like to put forward. And then finally is to invite the Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee of the Council to discuss the health issues arising from the gas odours from Wallis Quarry, and to do that as soon as possible. I will contact the chair of the committee after this meeting and ask him to set up that committee, and officers will put together a report, and also get information from Public Health England and other agencies as well to feed into that report, so that members of the council can debate and consider those issues to do with health relating to the odours from Wallis Quarry. And I think a debate took place at the Scrutiny Committee on Monday night about that, and I think they would welcome being invited to meet as soon as possible to discuss those health issues. So those are 4 things I'd like to add to the recommendations. Could I have any comments on those, Steve?
No, I agree entirely with you, especially in the involvement of Derek Hupfield. I think he's done a huge amount of work in this area for a number of years. Thank you.
Trevor?
I concur with what Councillor Sweeney says.
Jill, anything to add?
Yes, I'm pleased to see the recommendation, particularly the one to the health and wellbeing scrutiny, but I agree there's been an awful lot of work gone into this.
Thank you. So just to clarify then, unless there's any other speakers, no, the recommendations before us are as in the report, that we note the work to date the council officers have done to support the efforts of other agencies to rule out any other credible source for the odour problems. 2, that we note the letter before action that was served yesterday on Wallis Quarries Limited, formerly Red Industries, informing them of the council's work regarding statutory nuisance. We note the information received from Wallis Quarries Limited to the letter before action considered the 14-day period of the response. I think that's crucial, that there's that 14-day period for them to respond, to inform of subsequent decisions in the appropriateness of the council serving a statutory abatement notice as the next step. And the council agrees that we agree that the council continues to work with and support the multi-agency partner organisations in order to investigate and resolve the odour issues. And then those 4 extra recommendations relating to the Derry Cookfield proposal, also the joint letter with the county council, and then also the investigation of the emergency accommodation for those with underlying health conditions in the areas most affected by the hydrogen sulfide emissions. And finally, what has just been welcomed by Jill and others, the Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee convening a meeting as soon as possible to discuss the health issues arising from the odours from Wallis Quarry. Do you all agree with those recommendations? Thank you. And once again, thank you to the officers, and we have our head of our environmental health team here, Nesta, and thank you for the work that your team's been doing throughout the night, often 24/7 and weekends, to nail down this this odour and the source of the odour, and also to work with residents often in their homes as well, who've allowed monitoring equipment to be put in their homes, so we can nail this as an issue and take the action which we can as a council. But I will just go back to the beginning and say, obviously, the Environment Agency still have a major role to play, and you know, we're with them on that. We want them to succeed, but we will hold them to account for the failures in the past. Thank you for that. We'll move on to the next item, which is item 5, which is Kidsgrove Sports Centre refurbishment. I'm really pleased to introduce this latest report on the work towards the reopening of the sports centre in Kidsgrove. I see that the community group, who were working very closely with them, running a social media sort of run back on the history of this, from when it was closed to when we came in as administration here and started to work with the community group, right up to now, that when we're having this decision here today. Thank you, Nesta. This decision today, which will be the final piece of the jigsaw to enable us to go off and do the full refurbishment. The last couple of months haven't been a wasted time, because Wilmot Dixon have been on there doing work on the site, preparation work for this final phase of the refurbishment. But we got the report before us today on page 11, which outlines the position we are at the moment. And that is to the good news that we've got the 2.45 million from the town deal, which will go into the pot, which means the allocation from the council is now reduced from what we originally were decided in the budget in February, which is good news for the council's finances. Also, that the overall cost is 7.5 million. That follows the final tallying up of all the jobs and the other things, so to speak, that have come out of the work that's already taken place, which is a 1970s building. When you start to strip things back, you do find other issues, and they've all been tallied together and come to 7.5 million for the full refurbishment. And that 7.5 million includes the work that's already taken place, and also includes the money from the external sources, town deal, county council money, and money from Sport England, as well as the financial contribution from the council, which drops to 4.1 million. And also details under 5 of the 5-year operation subsidy, which will be giving the community group of £480, worst case scenario. Hopefully it won't be that much, but as Stephen will point out when he talks about some of the finances around this in a minute, compared with what we were spending when we were running the sports centre, that is a lot less year on year. And then obviously the big thing is the awarding of that final contract to Wilmot Dixon Construction for the works to take place, remaining works of 6.5 million, to completed in readiness for an opening by May 2022. And also within that, obviously the lease for the community group, it says in the report that it was agreed in principle, and I just want to bring in Simon Kenny, our officer. I want to call you Simon Mack, obviously, which I just did, to tell us just an update on that, the very latest on the lease with the Sports Centre community group.
Thanks, Caesar. I checked with our lawyers this morning. All the terms and conditions have now been agreed with the community group, and it is just the final drafting and putting together of all the appendices. I'm pushing them to get it finished ASAP, hopefully by the end of the week. But no contract will be awarded to Wilmot Dixon before we get that lease agreed and signed with the community group.
I know a lot of work has gone into that and to finalise those arrangements. So the community group are happy, particularly. And I think it's, as you say, when I was talking about final jigsaw in the puzzle, that is the final jigsaw in the puzzle. So we can then get on and get Wilmot Dixon in for the final work and refurbishment to be open next May. So that's the introduction for the report. I'll open it up to any comments. Bring in Jill Waring as a Kidsgrove Newcastle councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I just want to say I'm absolutely delighted with the progress so far with the sports centre. I'm glad that the lease and management agreements are in the final stages now. I think it's vital that we get these right in order to protect the 7.5 million that's been invested, and it will oversee the success of the operation going forward. And I'm assuming that the project will be subject to the council's audit procedures in that respect. On another note, I just want to say that people are so looking forward to the opening of this centre. I know that Congleton Leisure Centre is closed. There's no swimming there at the moment. That has a knock-on effect. My grandchildren live in Alsager. And so Alsager are now getting the children coming through for wanting places. And they've got some of the lists now are 80 children long. So that's how desperate we are for swimming places down there. And we'll see if we get someone come to Newcastle. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased with the progress. And I think it's brilliant, fantastic, and I can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. I'm going to bring in Steve now with the
Yeah,
financial side.
Thank you, Lydia. Yeah, I must point out that the £482,000 over 5 years is the worst case scenario, and the best case scenario is 61,000. So, but as accountants always brought up to be as pessimistic as they can, which is no problem with that. And 248,000 is actually the realistic case. But considering the fact that it was losing prior to being shut something like £200,000 a year, and the worst scenario here is £100,000. So we said £100,000 a year straight away. And for £7.5 million, we've got a building that will last for 25 years. And I mean, I think that's really, really good value for money, personally. When you look at what other places are spending on things, £7.5 million for 25 years. Fabulous.
Yeah, and I just think you mentioned, Jill, didn't you, the Congleton Leisure Centre that's at the moment being revamped, so to speak. But I did hear on the local media that's costing in the region of £10 million. I don't think that includes a sports hall. And if it did, it's not as big as our sports hall at Kidsgrove Sports Centre. So I think it's, and I've seen also in the media in recent weeks of other councils in the West Midlands, allotting £23 million for a new sports centre. So we're getting, obviously, this building, as Stephen said, for a value there, and 25 years use out of it is the most you can really expect from a centre anyway. So I think we're going to get value for money in the end over this. I'll open it up for other views. Trevor?
Thank you, Leader. Well, as you know, I feel there's 30 years life in this. So you've got 5 years extra there. I'll be long dead by the time that's finished working for us.
Okay. Thank you. Jill?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great facility for the borough, and people will travel to it. Years and years ago, I used to travel to Kidsgrove to use the badminton court, so I know that it'll be greatly used.
Paul?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, it's been a long journey. I won't repeat what's already been said. It'll just allow the council to fulfil its commitment to provide sports facilities in Kidsgrove in a very modern and attractive format that will be for the enjoyment of all in Kidsgrove and those that visit it. So it's been a long journey to finally actually see it, the mechanics of this finally coming into play, and seeing a delivery in the horizon is most heartening. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. And I think also just a nod to the town deal fund for this and the government's investment, because that's come just at the right time for us, hasn't it, to inject that cash into. We've already spent the first part of some of the advance monies on the initial works in Kidsgrove Sports Centre, and I'd like to thank the local MP Jonathan Gullis for his work and ongoing work relating to the pool and also the other facilities in Kidsgrove which will benefit from the town deal money. We've seen the pitches are already in place right next to this, and hopefully the vision, as you can see in one of the bullet points of the discussions between the community group and the King's School, where the pitches are sited right next door, there's a chance there for a sports village approach, isn't there, between the two, with for the benefit of Kidsgrove people, both of those being used for the community. And I think also the advanced town deal money has led to the development of the Chinky Park pump track, which is in its final design finishing now at the moment, which is a great facility for the other end of Kidsgrove. And then there's the Clough Hall Park works as well, which are enhancing that park, which is just up the road from Kidsgrove Sports Centre and the centre of Kidsgrove, so a facility for everybody to use. So again, we're looking at investment from the government through the town deal, and the council's investment, along with the initial money from the county council as well, has made this project viable. And we've got the recommendations before us, which I won't read out, but can we all agree those and let this project move forward as soon as possible? Agreed. Thank you. Item 7 is item 6, Nutton Master Plan report on public consultation and suggested amendments to the draft Nutton Master Plan. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Leader. This is exciting times for Nutton. I first got elected as chamber in 2006. I'm thinking we were talking about Nutton in 2006, and we're still talking about it now, and we're actually doing something now. And this is the start of the developments. The master plan is funded through the One Public Estate programme and has involved all three major authorities. So that's two authorities. That's the county, that's the Borough Council, and of course it's Aspire. The consultation has gone out. Unfortunately, it's been one of these virtual things, but that's where we are. We can't help that. Had quite a decent net of responses. And on item number 3, proposals, suggested amendments to the draft master plan. These are all things that I think they felt that they could put in. Responses off the consultation that could be put into the master plan to change things around a bit. And really, all I'm asking at the moment is for people to say we can do that, and we can amend the master plan with those points. Thank you, Leader.
Okay, open it up to any comments. Paul, would you like to add anything?
Thanks, Leader. Yes, I'm seeing the initial preparation for this and the hard work from our officers under the leadership of Simon McKenny over there. It has brought this project to where it is today. Obviously, the town deal funding is following on from the One Public Estate. So to see the project in its initial stages, to go through for the consultation, which the Deputy Leader has illustrated hasn't been ideal with the being virtual and being via the internet and via the post, etc. But it has shown that people, that when they really want to make their comments known, have found a way of getting through and contributing to the consultation, which has been included here in the report. So it's nice to get that balanced feedback across the board. Obviously, there's going to be a wish list that everybody wants. There's got to be some compromise in what can actually be delivered. And I believe that this is the building blocks to provide that delivery in terms of going forward. Thank you, Leader.
Jill?
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I just want to say I think it looks very encouraging, particularly the amount of small dwellings that are proposed, and that would appear to meet the demand. I just want to mention the community centres. There is 2 options. The more expensive option allows for the before and after club to continue. So I would think in terms of long-term viability of the place, the more expensive option would be better, because it would allow the centre to generate more income, and it's a need that's unlikely to go away in the future, and so it will be sustainable. Thank you
For that. And if people will look at 1.2 on the report, unfortunately this report is way out of date now, isn't it? Unfortunately, because we have now heard the result of the town deal board, and of course the council has been awarded over £23 million for its town deal for this and for many other schemes within the TIP, the town centre plan. Again, a massive investment in Newcastle, not just the town centre, but this project here shows that it's borough-wide. And I think we just note that. Obviously, we heard at 1 minute past 12 on Tuesday morning, that we've been successful in that, and that's a massive cash injection on top of the over £11 million from the Future High Streets Fund that we've had from the government, and a vote of confidence in Newcastle for its future and for the people of Newcastle. And again, thank our Newcastle MP, Aaron Ball, for the work he's done on that, and also for our officers for putting in an excellent bid, and for the town deal board for its work on that. But we have the cash now to press ahead with things like this, and this report will take us forward on doing that. So recommendations before us, do we all agree?
Agree.
Excellent. Item 7 is proposed extension of Newcastle crematorium grounds and development of adjacent land off Chatterley Close, and Trevor's going to lead off on this one. Trevor.
Thank you, Leader. Newcastle Crematorium in Bradwell was opened in 1966. As well as the crematorium buildings and offices, it consists of extensive grounds which have been laid out over the last 50-odd years to accommodate the burial of cremated remains and various forms of memorialisation. The grounds are now nearing capacity for burials and memorialisation, and it is considered appropriate to seek to extend them onto an adjacent open space, which is in council ownership. thus creating additional capacity for an estimated 30 years. The extension would take up approximately just over a third of the adjacent 6.77 hectare site, and the crematorium would expand into the site, improving its access as well as providing space for new memorial gardens. The proposed extension to the grounds would consist of boundary treatments, railings, hedges, gates, etc. A new egress road facilitating a one-way access and egress system, additional car parking, footpaths, drainage and hard and soft landscaping. The estimated capital cost of this scheme is approximately £1.3 million. Memorialisation is a popular choice for bereaved families at the crematorium, and a range of modest options are currently offered for sale or lease by the council, including small headstones, benches, trees, shrubs. However, it is anticipated that there may be a latent demand for further options in this area, and therefore a feasibility study is in progress to explore the market and determine the range that could be incorporated into the layout of the extended grounds. The rationale for the extension to the existing facility is based upon lack of remaining space for interment of cremated remains, and any new site selected away from the present location would require a large level of investments, such as a new chapel of rest and new cemetery. The present site has received large amounts of investment into the crematory and associated equipment over the past few years. For these reasons, the extension option is considered to be the best value for money for any further investments. Additionally, residents who have interred ashes of relatives at the site will be able to opt for any future interments at the same location. And the proposal seeks to find a way to extend the crematorium so that the need of the local community can be met for the next 30 years. If this site is not expanded, the borough, the council would need to find additional resources to provide additional crematorium space elsewhere. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Trevor. Bring in Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, Lily. Yeah, I went to the FATS meetings. A lady talked from Bradwell about it. Talked very well as well, actually. It was good. But there's four sort of themes came out of the meeting, really. The local county council just got elected. A lot of the comments from residents were about access, roads, shortcuts, rat runs, this sort of thing. And I think the local county council pledged to do a traffic survey on to sort of ascertain exactly what the problem could be. There was also a question about another 7 sites or something in Bradwell that we were looking to sell, but we're not. I don't really know where that came from, but we're not. Also, I think people felt that an online consultation wasn't ideal, but what else can you do when you can't go to talk to people? So I think we did the best we possibly could for that. Some of the Labour members wanted us to just build the extension and nothing else, but the officer points out our capital programme needs the money as well. So that went through, and that was really the main points of it. I think the upgrading the MAGA, the multi-access games area, or whatever, will be quite good. Well, in fact, it'll be very good. It needs it, and I absolutely support this. And I think it's I think when you lose someone and then they die and they get cremated, you want the remains to be there. I think some people are saying you should put them in Kiel or something, but I think you want them to be there. I personally think that. And if you go to Calm Outside, I mean, there's fields of remains there, and I really think it's what we need to do. And I absolutely support this. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Trevor and Steve. I think I completely support everything you've said on that. And I think just on the consultation, always very difficult to do it during a global pandemic. But I think I can remember, and you were with me, Steve, one very wet afternoon and I think it was just before Christmas time or late autumn last year, our officers were going out delivering letters to residents to inform them about this. So it hasn't all been an online, it's actually been a physical one as well. I think it has been caught up in politics here, and I can do a bit of politics myself, and John will know that. As an opposition member, is that we're having to step in again and provide future capacity in an area of the council services. We had to obviously build Keele Cemetery because we were running out of burial space when we inherited the council from the Labour Party back in 2006. We achieved that. We've come in again in 2017, and we're faced with running out of interment space at our crematorium. And I completely agree with what Stephen and Trevor has said. People want that to be close by, and I think we've got the space there to do it, and I think we should use that space. And I'm completely in agreement with the recommendations that we do that, and that we allocate the space for the cemetery extension and direct officers to look at the options for finance and associated extension scopes of works and bring something back to us when they have done that. And I think all of the points that have been put forward through the consultation, they can be dealt with at a planning stage, etc. And I think that thing, the rumours going around that every bit of green space in Bradwell is under threat. Well, they only have to look at our asset management programme, which the council has been running for the past 3 years, and they will see that it isn't the case. The only bit of land which is being sold off was put forward by the Labour Party and went through the planning stage with them, and that is the Knipe Way land. So, politics always comes back to bite you, doesn't it? Because those decisions were made by those people. And also this bit of land we're talking about by the crematorium off Chatterley Close was removed from the place strategy, removed from the public open space strategy. I believe it was 2015 and 2017. We weren't in control of the council then. The then Labour members of the council decided to move forward on taking this out of those policies. Because I cannot prove it, but I assume they were discussing at the time ways of extending the crematorium. I don't know. But you would think that way, wouldn't you? But I think the commitment from the new county council, I think, is important because, yes, Stephen, a lot of these things are the effects on the highway, and that should always be taken into account, extra traffic, whether they be from people coming to the crematorium or from extra housing on the site. They need to be taken into consideration, and I'm sure he will honour that commitment. But the recommendation before us is there to see on 1 and 2, but I'll open it up to any more comments. Anybody wish to come in? Paul?
Thank you, Leader. Yes. This is, I know there's been a bit of a sore topic with some people, but the needs are very clear. We do need to extend the crematorium. And to do that, we've got the potential and the land to do that. And I think it's very prudent that the council have explored all reasons for doing it. And the commendations to the portfolio holder for examining every little which way but loose to look at this. But it's important that the community understand why we're doing it. That we need to, as you, Leader, have pointed out, that the space is required. And it's also pointed out that it's not all negative, that Bradwell is losing all its green spaces. I particularly live in a ward where there's no green spaces. So Bradwell's doing quite well compared with others, although we are surrounded by fields and loggerheads. We can't publicly use them, of course, because they're controlled by landowners. So I understand where the public are coming from, and they've had this green space for so long, but it comes to the end of the day when we need to make those prudent decisions, whether to take services into account to provide for those people that want interments and cremations locally to them. And I should imagine there would be a fair outcry if we as a council don't deliver that. So it's been our remit to do that, and I think that this is to be commended, and I fully support it wholeheartedly. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Paul. Just bring in Jill Waring.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I agree with Paul and support everything he's just said. I just wanted to make a point on the number of letter of objections that have been received, and I have noticed that there is a template letter in there where the spelling of it's called a crematorium. There is a spelling mistake. So it begs the question, do people actually read those template letters before they sign them and whack them off? And I think it's something that we should just keep an eye on and watch that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. So recommendations before us then, as printed. Do we all agree? Thank you. Moving on then to our next item, which is recycling material processing contract, and that's with Trevor again. 243.
Thank you, Leader. This is a bit drier, this subject, than the previous one. We joined the Staffordshire Waste Partnership contract for materials processing collected from our recycling collection service. When the change was made to our new successful dual stream collections, now the current contract comes to an end in March 2022. And we agreed last year for us as a Staffordshire Waste Partnership to go out to procurement for a new partnership contract. This was for an interim period up to the late 2020s to allow the project for a Staffordshire-wide material recovery facility called the MRF to be developed and constructed. As the council owns and operates its own transfer station, the fibre element of the recycling collection can be treated separately and does not need to form part of the partnership MRF contract. However, an agreed process for the sale of fibre needs to be agreed to ensure maximum value and low risk for the council. The procurement process was broken down into 6 individual lots, representing the 6 Staffordshire authorities who are part of the current partnership contract arrangements. This council was lot number 6. Tenderers were given the option to provide prices for processing, fully commingled recycling material, domestic mixed recycling and fibre combined or dual stream. Sorry, I'm a bit what's name on my acronyms here, and the fibre separate. But in terms of Newcastle, we only asked bidders for DMR processing costs. 4 bidders in total put in tenders for the various lots, with 3 of them bidding for our council lot 6. The 3 bidders for our council are referred to in the report to bidders A, B and C. These bids have been fully evaluated and moderated with the outturn scores given in the table in section 3.5 of the report. From the full evaluation process, bidder C has the highest score, and therefore it is recommended that they are awarded the contract for the processing of DMR from April 2022. With regard to fibre, it is proposed that the council carefully tracks and monitors the price indices for mixed paper and card using the nationally recognised material price index model provided by Let's Recycle to ensure we are receiving the best practical income for our material. At 6 monthly intervals, a mini competition process is undertaken with interested board and paper mills across the UK to ask for a fixed price per tonne based on the midpoint of the Let's Recycle index, plus an additional £1 per tonne uplift based on what they are willing to pay for fibre material collected by the council. And this process will be undertaken by appropriate staff within the Recycling and Fleet Services Department. Thank you, Leader.
Trevor, that was dry. It was dry mixed recycling, wasn't it? Right. So recommendation before us there. I think thank you for the work on this and the work you're doing, obviously on the Joint Weight Management Board as well. And of course, we know the story. We've changed our recycling system into a system that's way more efficient than it used to be. And I think this is standing us in good stead as things change in the future. And not every Staffordshire district can say that. So I think it's a testimony to the work you've done, and our officers and our recycling officer particularly has got us to this stage. But the recommendations are before us there. Any other comments from anybody? No? I think you've dried everybody out, Trevor. And so recommendation 1 and 2, do you all agree? Thank you. Next item then is the local plan enforcement plan 1-year update. Over to Paul to introduce this one.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, in line with the PPF recommendations that all local planning authorities publish a local enforcement plan, and to this respect, one was published last year by this council in 2020. But it's felt that it's been a difficult year because we've been under lockdown considerations, which has effectively had an impact on scrutinising and interrogating the effectiveness of this plan to date. It's been a mixed year in terms of progressing enforcement action. Because of lockdown restrictions, it's been very difficult to even communicate effectively with the inspectorate at national level that takes the high-level complex enforcement actions that the council are involved with at the moment. This has been frustrating, the fact that we couldn't conduct proper inquiries when they've been tabled and dated for that. And there's, of course, some major frustrations, particularly those that sit on the planning committee like myself. And I know John over there shares some of my thoughts that we have reports every 2 months on progress, and it's been virtually non-existent in some cases. So this plan needs to be effectively reviewed in June 2022. To judge the effectiveness of this plan and how this is implemented at this authority, aside from the unusualness of the last 12 months, the council moved quickly to adopt enhanced safety measures, that undertaking visits, etc., site visits and things like that had to come to a cessation. This has obviously skewed the actual figures. So it's not been a normal year for any stretch of the imagination that everybody can appreciate. So I felt that this report has to come back again for the Cabinet to approve, that there's a rollover and continued use of this local planning enforcement plan at the Borough, and undertake a review of the plan in June 2022. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Paul. Any comments on that? I think an important document, and enforcement in the planning area is a real issue for local residents, and there's a number of cases in the borough which we could talk to the ends of the earth about, and we often do at planning committees. But I think the plan behind it, we need to ensure that it's robust and carries on, pressing. I'm not saying always delivering, but pressing these cases to a conclusion, so that in the end we get a result which our residents are happy with. But this is the plan, and as you say, the end of 1 year update. And I endorse your comments and hand over to you to close.
Thanks, Leader. Yes, there has been some successes when we rolled out the membership planning member interaction protocol that we've initialised and put into place. This has identified to members on a weekly basis the enforcement action and issues in their area. That's worked particularly well. And I think that enforcing this plan in itself will make sure that members are more involved with the enforcement actions on their patch and made aware at the first opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. So recommendations before us, all agreed? Thank you. Right, we're now on to the item 10, which is the proposed compulsory purchase order of 12 Cheddar Drive, Newcastle. And Jill Heasom, in her first outing as a Cabinet member, is going to be introducing this report. No pressure, Jill.
Thank you, Leader. Right. As you're aware, councils have a problem with empty properties throughout the country. They've been left to fall into disrepair. They've been empty for quite a while. And this report is to obtain approval to commence the compulsory purchase order process with a view to acquiring and subsequently disposing of this property and bring it back to beneficial use. It has been empty for quite a long time, and despite extensive searches by the council, an owner or a relative of an owner has not been identified. With the right approach, it could contribute to affordable housing options in the borough. And obviously that would be a good result, that it's not left there to rot. Particularly, it's this particular property is attached to another property. So basically, I'm asking that the recommendation that the Executive Director, Commercial Development and Economic Growth be authorised to work up proposals to compulsory acquire 12 Cheddar Drive under Part 2 and Section 17 of the Housing Act 1985. And I'm willing to take questions if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Jill. I think you're quite right on this could contribute towards a home for a family or something, and at the affordable end of the scale. And also, we've just been talking about enforcement issues, haven't we, on the past report? This is, causing issues for the neighbours as they attach to another house and brings the whole area down, doesn't it? So I think it's the right thing to do and completely endorse. Any comments or questions on this to Jill? Paul, Steve?
I've learned a new word, escrow. It's not a word I've ever heard of, but I was wondering how we were buying something where we didn't know who owned it. but it clearly says how we do it. It was quite interesting for me. I'm a bit sad, but I thought it was 6.4. I mean, it's something I think it needs doing. I think it's an excellent move. I totally support it.
Proof that Stephen learns something new every day. So a recommendation before us. Thank you, Jill, for introducing that. All agreed? Okay, now we move to the finance performance finance and performance review report, Q4, obviously the last of the last financial year. Two parts to it. One is the revenue capital budget position and financial report, and then we've got the performance. So Stephen's going to cover the budget side of it first. So over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Leader. Basically, this report is saying that our books are going to balance. We're going to balance the revenue and the capital side of our accounts. Little bit of an underspend on both of them, but it's an excellent set of results. As you think where we were this time last year, wondering what on earth was going to happen, this council's lost something like £4,940,000 in this year. Some of that is lost income. Other money is because we've had to do things we wouldn't normally do. It costs more, like have more staff on the bin lines and things like that. But the government has given us £5,075,000, which more or less covers off what we've lost. And I think I know we've said this before. We've said it a number of times in this chamber that we've lobbied, the MPs lobbied, the LGAs lobbied government, telling them what we need off them. And to their great credit, the government has listened to what we need, has realised that we're not joking. It's not some sort of scam we're doing. It's actually genuine, and has come up with the goods. And the fact they've come up with that goods has enabled us to do a balanced set of accounts for the year. And I think it's a very, very good result this for the borough. Thank you.
I think so, Steve. I mean, yes, this time last year we were in the depths of the first lockdown. All our services were in turmoil, weren't they? As every council was. So, sports centres closed, museums closed, issues with staffing on frontline services. And yes, as we've gone through, we've had everything we needed from the government, haven't we? And more. And they funded our homeless work, which was to get all the homeless off the streets during the pandemic. And as you say, we reached a balanced figure at the end of it, which is all we really can do for the budget. And commend our staff in the finance team for doing that, and the work you've done, Steve, and also, as you say, the lobbying that has also been done. Before we move on to performance, any comments on the financial side of it? No. If we move on to performance then, as it says there, 18 indicators were monitored during this quarter. 78% of them are within tolerable levels, but a number of indicators, obviously, during this quarter involved services that were closed because we were in the remind me, was it the second or third lockdown during this point? I think it's a lockdown 2 point something or other, wasn't it, during this period? So if we turn to our performance data, we'll go through it as we usually do, page by page. And the first priority is the local services for local people. And first set of indicators are in Trevor's area, in environmental health. Any comments on those, Trevor? Okay, no, so you don't have any on the first. Oh, you do, yes, percentage of. Go on. No.
I put a number on the page. Anyway, it's right. Environmental health, percentage of food. Yeah, I mean, all that is saying on environmental health, isn't it? It's the COVID thing has beggared the figures up for this. Yeah. But still, not too bad.
And on the bottom figures there, the residual waste, food waste, and dry recyclables.
Well, on food waste, I happen to know now that we're outperforming. We are collecting more food waste now than we have ever collected before at any time since we started. On curbside collections, I know that you would prefer to see 100% there. I know that. But these figures are excellent, and we're getting tremendous results on the curbside collections. Operations, what have we got? Streets, right, we can have a go on streets cleanliness. Well, I think the figures are showing us that we're not doing too bad at all. Okay.
That's you done on that,
That's me
that
done, I
page,
think.
yeah. Couple in my area of portfolio responsibility. A percentage of resolved at the first point of contact. Okay, we're staying on the right side of that one. We're in a red on the following one, which is the number of calls answered in the percentage of the time. And I think if you look in the comments there, obviously during this period, we were having the elections, we were having the COVID issues, and also the council tax bills. So all those three coming together, particularly this election this year was one which was, we were pushing more postal votes. So there was more queries about that. There was queries about where's my polling station? Because I think we've had the most changes in polling stations as we've ever had because we couldn't use schools, etc., as we used to do because of COVID. So that has led to the increase in that time taken to answer calls, and also the track and trace program work as well throughout the COVID issues we've had. So I think that we can understand that, and I think the next quarter watch very closely for a pickup in that as we move back to the normality in the first quarter of this financial year. Over the page. Again, some to do with calls there, and then we're down to Stephen and his council tax and benefits.
Yeah, I mean, 1.11 and 1.12 are both excellent. 1.10 has got, it's still under target. I don't have a problem with that. But a lot of these people have been the COVID grants, and so they've been splitting their time, which is why the numbers got, it's still below target, but why the numbers, but hopefully it'll come down next quarter as the COVID grants are running out.
Yeah, and the point there about obviously on human resources, average number of days per employment loss to sickness is low, and of course it was anticipated that would increase because of COVID. This is in probably the lockdown where cases have been the most, isn't it? This period, whereas we came out of Christmas into the end of the financial year, and as you can see there, the increase was no increase due to COVID, and it hasn't been the case. So that's good news on that one. Moving on to growing our peoples and places performance in the property area. Steve, anything to mention? No. And then Paul's planning and development area. Over to you.
Thanks, Leader. Yes, the indicators remain well within target. On improving or being maintained at more than acceptable level. There is an anticipation that now we're out of lockdown, there will be an increased influx of planning applications, but the quality of the actual planning and development applications were also balanced with the fact that we've changed direction with the Borough local plan this year, and the planning staff have taken that in their stride. So far, and still maintain these figures is very, very, very encouraging. And thanks go to all the staff involved.
Sorry, there we go. Echo that to our staff in the planning area, who've adapted really well to the home working and the and dealing with COVID, and kept their figures throughout, haven't they, at a high level, which is a credit to them and to Simon Mack and his team. Priority number 3 is health, active and safe borough, and we've got some community safety ones there. Jill, have you got anything to comment on those?
Yeah, looking at the antisocial behaviour part of it, I'm quite pleased. It's been very effective teamwork in managing this. It looks like the figures have fallen. But when we come into the Marek and the referrals, sorry, not the Marek, the referrals taken from the Daily Hub, I think that's quite good, because since the pandemic, the Marek and the Hub demand have been high. There's some analysis underway to determine the cause, but it's likely to be because partners are now more familiar with the, I can't get my words out today, with the mechanism and principles of harm reduction. I'll probably have a better idea for the next one, but I am quite pleased with how this is going at the moment.
Thank you, Jill. And over to the Jill. I think you've been decimated in yours, haven't you, in your indicators? But anything to add on the culture, leisure and leisure?
Well, obviously the museum is closed because of redevelopment, so we've had no visits in that quarter. With regard to leisure and recreational facilities, J2, same applies there. But I can just tell you that we are things are looking up, and we are doing quite well at J2 at the moment. And last week we had an overall occupancy of 83%, 94% for swimming, 86% in the small pool, and 71% in the gym, which is brilliant. And then the other 3.5, which is membership growth. Once again, we were affected by the closures, but memberships now are increasing. They increased by 40 in the last month, and we are now approaching 2,000. Thank you.
Thank you for that early look at the next figures to show when J2 has opened, it's back up and running, which is really good. Last priority is the town centre for all. 3 indicators there, starting, Stephen, with the car parking, I suppose, again, COVID decimated.
Yes, I've nothing really to add to that. So the place been shut for 3 months, so
Okay,
car parking's
footfall again, of course, way down,
again.
but interesting to see what the first quarter of this financial year will be when we've opened up and we've had the successful markets, etc., which brings us to the 4.3. And of course, I think we've got a few markets in this quarter before they had to close down, didn't we? We just had the essential markets.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 stores. The Antiques Forum was shut for the entire quarter. It's been heartbreaking, really, because I think the market was really progressing, really coming on, and then bang, it stopped. But it started again now. I've had a meeting today with the new bid manager. Very encouraged by her wanting to work with our officer in the town centre to promote the town centre. Lots of interesting thoughts from her. And I would hope, well, I'm sure the next one of these will be a lot better than this one, because this has hit us bang slap on lockdown, the 3 months of it. Thank you, Liam.
Yeah, I think the artisan markets we've had in the last few weeks, the record fair, the food markets, and the antique market yesterday was packed, and there was loads of people in town. So I think that will show a massive improvement in the market take up, and also the footfall in that first quarter that we'll look at later in the summer. Okay, so everybody happy with those reports, and we've obviously looked into them and discussed them. Everybody agreed? Thank you. Moving then to our next item, which is item 12, the procurement of a financial transaction and legal case management system. Report is in 2 parts. There's a confidential bit, which we'll come back to later, which is in confidential, obviously relating to the contract itself. But just to point out, this was made as a delegated decision in May. And it is coming to us because we asked it to come to Cabinet, because we wanted to give it the overview as well. It was used under emergency powers. I mean, I did at the time as the Chief Executive know wasn't happy with that, but we are where we are. The report points out the reasons why this has happened like this, and I think I made my point that this is not really the way to make decisions of this nature, and it should go through an informal Cabinet, possibly through to a Cabinet, and not just a last-minute decision. But leaving it at that there, obviously decision was taken and the report's attached, and we are now asked to note that, but I'll bring in Stephen for any comments.
No, I agree entirely with you. The reason it's come to this report today is because we're an open and transparent council. We want something that people can see and people can read. There's no secrets on this. It was just a rush job, which none of us are very happy with. I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind that myself and Simon have singing off the same hymn sheet on this one. But the fact it's on here is to be noted, and it's just in the public domain. It's here. It's in front of everybody. Everybody can read it. No secrets. No nothing. Thank you.
Any other comments? So recommendation there before us that we note the urgent decision, and we will touch on the confidential side of this, which is the sensitive stuff to do with contracts, etc., and under the confidential part of the agenda. Next item then is the forward plan, item 13. We've got that attached. If we just go through that page by page and agree the forward plan of the council, plenty of items in there over the summer into the into the autumn, starting on page 293, all agreed. Over the page 294, right, taking us up to the September Cabinet. There's a lot of items in there which is available for the public to view, see what's coming up on Cabinet over the next few months. And moving back to, to our agenda, item 14, urgent business. Haven't got any urgent business. Item 15 is that disclosure of course, of confidential nature of a report. And I move that we resolve the public be excluded from the meeting during that consideration of the report. And we'll just wait for the YouTube live feed to be cut off.